That was a lot of running right there that I did, and I don't think I was going to be able to go that next play. So.
And for you to tap out in that situation is the most ridiculous thing that I have ever heard.
I saw you tap out yesterday, bro. It's a bad look. That's a horrible look.
The whole team is sitting back wondering what the hell he's doing in there at quarterback anyway, when Joe Flacco is clearly the better answer.
Should they flip to Joe Flacco?
As a Colts fan, I was excited to see how the maturation and development of Anthony Richardson would go, because the season prior was filled with letdown after letdown. But even with that being the case, it was still understandable. Gardner Minshew was a bridge quarterback. We didn't expect a lot from him. He did the best he could at that time. But many, including myself, thought after Anthony Richardson was completely healthy, the new era would finally begin. Because we had been through semi-old quarterback after old quarterback after semi-old quarterback, but then old quarterback again, to the point where we wanted to finally find a guy who could be with the organization more than just one season. And that is where Anthony Richardson came in. A raw talent most of the fans were fine with letting develop because his time in Florida was short-lived. He started 13 games for the Florida Gators. There he threw for 2,549 passing yards, 17 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. He had 654 rushing yards with 9 rushing touchdowns. But with those 13 starts, the Colts knew that this would be a huge gamble with the 4th overall pick. And up until that point, many Colts fans had patience, but that patience is right now on thin ice. We're going to talk about Anthony Richardson in this video, why the Colts made the move to draft him in the first place, and how things are going to go looking forward. But before we get into that, make sure that you guys like, comment, and also subscribe to the channel. We are on the way to 3,000 subscribers, so help a brother out. Hit that sub button, leave a like, and comment your thoughts and opinions down below on Anthony Richardson. Are you a believer of his game, or do you believe that it should be game over for the young quarterback? So looking back at this time before Anthony Richardson was drafted, the Colts had good old Matty Ice, who had a roller coaster of a season with the Colts. 15 touchdowns and 13 interceptions. He could not, and when I say this, he could not hold on to the ball for nothing. He had 15 fumbles, and that's kind of crazy for anybody, especially a quarterback. I kind of feel like his heart wasn't in it anymore after leaving Atlanta. He wanted to win and give it his all, but at the same time, he just wasn't up to it anymore. Sam Ehlinger was the backup at that time. He got in, lost all 3 of his games, having 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. It even got to the point where they let Nick Foles take a crack at the starting lineup. He got his swing at things, but that didn't work. Fella played 2 games, had 2 losses, did not score at all. Their entire season had fans upset because the Colts continued to put band-aids on the quarterback position instead of drafting the new face of the franchise. And with all of that, that led to a lot of people wanting Chris Ballard gone, and a lot of people also wanted Frank Wright gone. Many, including myself, waited to see what Jim Irsay would do. Chris Ballard stayed, Frank Wright got fired. Now you insure Shane Steichen, who had a pretty good first year, I should say, but we're going to talk about him a little bit later. But what I will say about that 2022 season, it really made me miss Phillip Rivers as well as Andrew Luck. And I definitely miss this sound.
Richmond, Florida, Buffalo. Rinse on the apple. Apple, apple. Apple, 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 apple.
But that's in the past. Let's talk about the now.
The Indianapolis Colts select Anthony Richardson.
Anthony Richardson was drafted in 2023, a physical specimen that had every single trait from an athletic perspective. Could hit the ball off the ceiling, jump out the gym, run faster than most, but could he play quarterback? The jury is still out on that. We look at his rookie season just a year ago. It started out okay for a guy with only 13 starts. He completed 24 of 37 passes for 223 yards, rushed 10 times for 40 yards. He did not look bad in his season debut. And overall for a rookie, he looked all right, finishing that season with 577 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception with a completion percentage of 59.5. This was in just 4 games before suffering a season-ending shoulder injury. So what many were hoping for with him coming off of this injury was that he was in the lab, working on his craft, studying the game, getting better mentally as well as physically. He didn't have to come back and be the next coming of Peyton Manning or anything, but just a better version of himself. At the very least, not a worse version of Anthony Richardson. Well, it looks like he is worse than he was last year. Through 6 games, he has had 958 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions. And it doesn't look good, but fans did their best to remain patient. This was until he had a horrible but winnable game against the Texans in a divisional matchup. A division that was still up for grabs for the Colts, but as bad as it has been for Richardson all season, this was by far the worst game of his career from a performance perspective as well as a mentality perspective. 175 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and a completion percentage of 31.2. 2 of 15 in the first half, 10 of 32 for the game. There were moments in this game that were just outright awful, but let's talk about 2 of those moments. This pass going into halftime was a horrible throw, a horrible decision, and a horrible play call. Run the ball, let the clock go down to halftime, and you will see a tie ball game of 10-10. I'm not sure what the thought process behind this was. A lot of fans were already done with him then, and Shane Steichen's seat is getting a little bit hotter. I still believe in Shane Steichen, but it seems like this to me, and I could be way off on this. It almost feels like Shane Steichen is out there purposely showing people that Anthony Richardson cannot throw the football, and he wants the fans to turn on him before he actually has to bench him in order to make that decision easier. It's a crazy conspiracy theory, I know, but that's just how these games have been going. And I know that play was bad, and bad things do happen in the course of a game. He isn't the first quarterback to make a bad decision, a bad read, and it isn't going to be the last time somebody makes a decision like that. However, the main topic and main conversation that everybody has been talking about, the one time that they actually talk about the Indianapolis Colts, happened right here. After this long run, you take yourself out of the game because you were tired, and then you go on to admit that on live TV. That means you need to get in shape. When was the last time you seen Lamar Jackson do this? I don't think I have either, and he be running all day long. There are some things that you keep to yourself, and this should have been one of those. It's a bad look for the team, the staff, the players, a bad sound for the locker room, and it makes it easier for guys that didn't believe in you in the first place say, I told you so. I was a huge believer, but does this look like a guy who is going to lead you to the promised land as of right now? I doubt it. Now, Shane Steichen had some questionable moments in this game, didn't run the ball enough. He saw that Anthony Richardson was struggling, and when I say struggling, he was struggling, but he continued to call Anthony Richardson's number. Even though he was having a hard time out there, you could see Anthony Richardson visibly missing guys, overthrowing guys, underthrowing guys. Now, look, the wideouts did drop a few plays in this game, and that plays into confidence and rhythm, but Anthony Richardson missed more than they dropped. And this has not been just this game, it has been all season long. As a wideout, look, they probably need to get in some type of rhythm too. Maybe they're off because the QB can't throw the ball. But look, in all seriousness though, you got to catch the ball. The offensive line did not have a good game either. They gave up 5 sacks, but up until this point, they have been one of the best O-lines in the NFL, so I'm going to chuck this one up to a one-off. But it feels like the QB carousel may not be over for the Indianapolis Colts. And for those who are saying play Joe Flacco, I want to agree. I'm not 100% on that boat yet, but on one hand, we could go to the playoffs with Joe Flacco, maybe, but do I think this is a Super Bowl winning roster? I don't think so. There are too many holes all around the team, especially on the defensive side of the ball, but they did play okay yesterday. On the flip side, you could leave Anthony Richardson in there. Maybe, just maybe, he gets better and becomes that guy, but that is wishful thinking at this point. He probably would lose some games and your draft pick is higher as a result. You evaluate the QBs that you like and you take another crack at it, but do I think this team is bad enough to get some high draft pick as of right now? No, I do not. It feels like this team isn't hot or cold, it's just lukewarm, and that's good enough to remain in the middle of the pack in the NFL. But the way I see this situation playing out is somewhere in the middle. Let's see how Anthony Richardson responds after this horrible game. The Colts are 4-4. They have a late night game against the Vikings, so all the cameras, all the lights will be on AR. Will he prove the doubters wrong or not? If he has another performance like he did against the Texans, bench him, because at some point it has to be important to keep the locker room intact, because guys will get tired of losing and get tired of dealing with a guy who they know is not ready, especially when you have a guy who has proven to be a better option. If that does happen and you bench Anthony Richardson, I am of the mindset of to consider moving on. Hear me out. I'm not totally sold on that, but just hear me out. And this is why. If Anthony Richardson can't complete more than 30 or 40% of his passes, I think even if you are in the middle of the first round, there is another guy who can at least do that. And that may be harsh, but it's the truth, because I'm going to leave you guys with this. The fact of the matter is, every single first round rookie this year that has actually played meaningful time looks better than Anthony Richardson. We know Jaden Daniels looks better, Caleb Williams looks better, Bo Nix looks better, and Drake May, even though he's only played 3 games, he looks better than Anthony Richardson. And as much as I believe that Anthony Richardson has every single physical trait that is needed to succeed, he hasn't been able to stay healthy. The best ability is availability. I was one of the ones who used to preach that he needed more reps. The thing about it is, the more reps he seems to get, the worse he seems to look. And now that my disappointment is out of the way, I will tell you guys what I think is actually going to happen if Anthony Richardson continues to play bad. I think, but I'm not 100% sold on this either, that they will try to bench him for a year or two, see if he learns, see if he develops that way. But this is not a Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love situation. Aaron Rodgers is not in that quarterback room. This is not a Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes, and Alex Smith situation. Alex Smith, in that point in his career, was a reliable veteran. Who is going to be that guy in the locker room to help develop Anthony Richardson into what he can be? And if you go that route, you got to have a QB in the meantime. So who is that going to be? Is Joe Flacco going to hang on that long? I don't know. And I'm still a fan. I want to believe in him. I really do, but he has not been consistently accurate enough for me to believe that he can be a starting QB in the NFL. I hope that changes, but as of right now, he hasn't.